Welcome back to From Both Sides of the Couch. This is Dr. Laurie Bruce. Last year, I did an episode on the word of the year at the end of 2024. In that episode, I talked about the use of mantras to help guide our personal goals, as well as 5 questions that you can ask yourself if you would like to create your own word of the year. You can listen to that episode, or you can also read it on my blog at drlauriebruce.com. Last year, I chose my word of the year to be brave, which I define as doing hard things even when you are scared. I definitely was brave this past year in many, many ways. I took time off from work to focus on my self-care, which I very rarely, in fact, I don't think have ever done. I bought a new house all by myself, and recently I rescued a dog who is the love of my life. His name is Muggsy, and he is a white boxer pitty mix, at least I think he is, and he has been a huge source of comfort and motivation for me in the last couple of months. This year, I have spent some time thinking about what I want my next word of the year to be. As I have shared many times, 2024 was the hardest year of my life. And to be totally honest, I'm very grateful that this year is ending so that I can look forward to a new year. I thought I might share a little bit about my internal dialogue as I have struggled to come up with my new word, in the hopes that some of my thoughts might resonate with you. Stay tuned. Welcome. My name is Dr. Laurie Bruce. I'm a clinical psychologist and mindfulness coach, and this is From Both Sides of the Couch. In this podcast, I will be sharing with you ideas, strategies, and nuggets of wisdom from my 25 years of experience as a therapist and as a client in my own therapy. I am passionate about helping the helpers, those of us who are caregivers either by profession or in our personal lives. Join me as we explore topics such as building resilience, self-care and self-acceptance, reducing stress, anxiety, and guilt, and how to live the happiest and most fulfilling life possible. Let's get started. Word of the year. What is a word of the year? It can be a mantra that you write down. Maybe you make some jewelry out of it or create a vision board. So many things you can do. I personally just typically make a mental note of it as a way of keeping me focused and reminding myself when I go off track. Because I've struggled so much this past year with grieving, I thought it would be helpful for me to choose a word that was related to acceptance, that sort of final stage of grief. But each time I thought of using the word acceptance, I felt this strange sensation, and it seemed like this sort of nagging feeling that acceptance didn't just quite fit, but I wasn't really sure why. Of course, isn't acceptance all that we really want when we're grieving? We just want to get it over with and start to accept our new reality as quickly as possible. And I think that is the part that does not fit for me. It's the awareness that I'm wanting to hurry up a process that really can't be hurried. When I have expressed to my friends how sick and tired I am of feeling grief, a reaction that I often get is, "I would be worried about you if you weren't still grieving." And that is a good reminder for myself and anyone else going through a difficult period. Grief takes time. There's no way around that. You can't jump ahead in the grief line. You just have to be in it. And grief takes as long as it takes. There's no way to predict how long it will take. There's no heal your grief in 30 days or less class. And if there is, I'm telling you now that it's bogus, so don't waste your money. Each and every one of us needs to feel our grief in our own way and in our own time. And I have no idea why one person's grieving period might be longer than another's. There are certainly things we can do to help move our grief along: talking, connecting, sharing, feeling, being kind and gentle to yourself. All of these things help, but it's still no cure. I have friends who have experienced the most profound losses you can imagine, and they have shared with me that you never really, truly, fully heal. You might come to experience more acceptance in time, but there's always a feeling inside of you that something is missing. So when I think about choosing acceptance as my word of the year, it feels like I'm trying to skip ahead. Then I thought about the word forgiveness. In my grief, I have felt a lot of anger. And that anger is also exhausting. It takes a lot of energy to experience that level of anger. So ideally, yes, I would forgive those who have hurt me in 2024. But when I think about that word, I also feel that nagging sense of, no, that's not right either. I am not ready to forgive. It is especially hard to forgive someone who is not sorry for what they've done. And I've been reading a lot about the nature of forgiveness, what it means and what it doesn't. I know forgiveness is for myself and not for the other person. I know that not forgiving only hurts me. It doesn't hurt the other person at all. They don't care whether you forgive them or not. Holding on to anger serves no real purpose. But as much work as I've been doing in therapy on my own anger, and believe me, I've been doing a shit ton of anger work, my poor therapist, I know that I am still not ready. I have no doubt, however, that I will get there. I'm not going to carry around this anger and bitterness for the rest of my days. But I haven't quite yet figured out how to let that anger go. Maybe forgiveness will be my word of 2026. But for now, I know that's not realistic for me. I then thought about the word openness. Openness to whatever comes, good or bad. In sharing with one of my besties, she shared that this is her word of the year. That she has recognized that this past year, she had a lot of expectations, some very high expectations, and that she felt really disappointed and sad and mad when those expectations didn't happen. She is aware that this mindset does not help her. We talked about how no expectations doesn't seem like a great mantra because it almost sounds like you're planning to be disappointed. So we talked about how having a year of openness means that you try not to put these inflexible expectations on yourself or others. You can certainly have hopes and wishes and even goals, but the idea is that they are flexible and that your real goal is to be open to whatever comes your way, all of it, the good, the bad, and the ugly. I could borrow my bestie's word because I certainly need more openness in my life, but I still feel like I wanted something different. I thought about joy as my word. I'm definitely feeling more joy in my life, more and more each day. I have some fun trips with my girlfriends planned for this year. I've got my pup Muggsy, who brings me so much joy. And at some point, I will probably start dating again this year, which could potentially bring some joy. However, also a lot of stress as well. So that's for another episode. In general, I have a lot that I'm looking forward to this year. But when I thought about the word joy, it occurred to me that I don't want to be chasing joy. It's one thing to have joy happen spontaneously, to notice the joy when it is present and to try not to worry about when it will end. But to have joy as my word of the year, to me, that implies that I'm going to be focused on finding joy or searching for joy. And that could eventually lead to chasing joy. And when you chase joy, you're in trouble. The joys seem to need to get higher and higher in order to have the same effect. And when that happens, we know that where there is a high, there is inevitably a low. And the last thing I need in my life right now is more emotional instability. As much as I want more joy in my life, what I really think I want is more peace. And so that is what has brought me to my word of 2025, which is peace. I don't want highs and lows. I don't want to rush my grief or force myself into forgiveness or even make myself think that I'm at the acceptance stage when I couldn't possibly be yet. I do want to be open to whatever happens, but what I'm really looking for right now is more peace and more calm. In a year full of so many surprises and changes and transitions and doing hard things and being brave, I just want some of the comfort of the familiar. Of course, and here is where the openness comes in, we know that change is inevitable. It is the only constant that we can predict. We cannot bank on things staying the same because they won't. But what I can be mindful of is that my heart needs some rest. It craves peace and contentment. I don't want to strive or achieve or have expectations about how things should be. I want to plan for peace in my own life. And if that means saying no and setting boundaries, or saying yes and experiencing new things, it means that my overarching goal for the year is to feel more settled and content and quiet, to just be me, my perfectly imperfect self. I hope this episode has been helpful for you, and I would love to hear from you and what is your word of the year. Feel free to reach out to me at drlaurie@drlauriebruce.com. And if you know someone who could benefit from hearing this episode, please consider sharing. Happy New Year to you. I am grateful to each and every one of my listeners, and I will see you in 2025.